back. It has been a while. It has been a very chaotic couple of months. I haven't had the time to sit down and really film anything, but I have gotten quite a bit of reading done. So I'm going to be consolidating November and December's wrap up together. So go ahead, sit down, make yourself cozy, get yourself a drink, get yourself a snacky snack. We're here for the long haul. This is going to be a long video. So this past couple months I have actually been reading some not necessarily popular books, but some of the more popular books and some that kind of have a little bit of a hype around them. And I've kind of decided to check them out, see what they're about. Some of them I got in a subscription box, so I just decided to give them a read, and some of them I was able to find on Libby. And it's been pretty hit or miss. We'll just put it that way. So since this is going to be a long video, we'll just get straight into it. First book I read was The Entanglement of Rival Wizards. I was not a huge fan of this one. I can see why people enjoyed it. I did see this on Barnes & Noble's website when it was first released, and it was one I wanted to pick out and read. So I am glad I got this one from Fae Crate. This is the nice, stunning Fae Crate edition. There is a little bit of hype around this one just because of how lovely this edition is. Lots of people are asking for them to reprint this one. I overall enjoyed the concept and the idea of it. I just don't feel like the execution of it was done very well. So this is basically about two wizards. They are post-grads, or they're just graduating college. They're like 24 to 25, and they're put together to work on this final project to present to the society on how their research is going to better magic in their society as a whole. And of course, these are two rivals that actually ends up being very one-sided. And it is quite a short novel, so I can't fault it for being rushed. I think that was my main problem with this story. And I feel like when I say that they have this final project, I feel like it really gets sideshaft, because this is also, surprise surprise, a romance, and the entire story just kind of gets dropped for this romance aspect. And there's a lot of side plots to it that don't really do anything for the relationship of the story either. So this main aspect of the story just kind of gets dropped for these other aspects. The character development is not done very well. I don't like these characters. They're very bratty and immature for 25-year-olds. These are 25-year-olds that act like 16-year-olds, and it's just very juvenile behavior, and they just kind of, the romance is really weird. It's not really there. It's just they kind of shack up together. They just kind of angry kiss each other in the lab one day, and then they kind of just chalk it up to sexual tension or frustration, and it's so weird to me. There's no build up to it, no I don't know, it was just weird. It was really rushed. So I just didn't really like that. I wasn't sold on the romance. I wasn't sold on the pacing. There's this subplot to the story about how one of the characters was put in this magic magic experiment camp, but they kept off-putting what that actually meant until towards the end of the book, and so it just didn't feel like it had any impact, because it should have been explained earlier in the story. So like when the characters address it towards the end, it has more of an impact. And then it just kind of, I didn't really understand why it was there because it didn't add anything to a relationship or how the characters viewed each other. And it was like the problem was instantly fixed because the parents that put them in the camp were like, oh my god, we're sorry, we didn't know that happened. And that was it. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess. And I don't know. I really liked the concept and idea of the story. It was a cute idea. I really like the idea of the world. Like, it's like this kind of like magical D&D-esque kind of world, but like with modern day stuff to it. What's that Disney movie called? Where it's like the elves and stuff. So it's like kind of a fantasy world, but it's in like modern day. Oh, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but the world kind of reminded me of that, and I really like the concept of it. I just really wish it could have gone into the characters more. I can definitely see why people liked this. It does have like a fun writing style. The writing conveys like the sassiness of the characters and stuff, and it is fun. It is like an overall quick read to get through. I just couldn't really get into the characters, and I think that's kind of what kept me from overall liking this story and getting into the romance. So I just don't think this is for me. I think I'm too old for it. I feel like the younger demographic would really enjoy this one a lot more. I think if you're like 26 and under, you might be able to relate to the characters a little bit more than I was able to. But yeah, I do see why people like this. I can see why it's popular. It just wasn't for me. I feel like if you want to read this, find it on Libby. Pick up the regular copy. While this special edition is stunning, it's not really worth, the story itself is not really worth paying the reseller prices for the special edition. That sounds a little bit harsh, but that's just my opinion on it. The next one I got was Behooved. This was from the Bookish box. I wanted to like this, especially since like the art is nice, the binding is beautiful, like the inside end pages are stunning, and they're like shiny, and then the sprayed edges is nice. I just kind of already knew I wasn't going to like this one. I'm not a horse girly, so like the idea of your husband being turned into a horse was kind of a weird one to me. I had so many things to say about this one. I feel like I went into this with like an expectation. Like, this cover is very different than the original cover. The cover for the original is like very bright, very colorful. Like, it sounded funny. Like, the description made it feel like it was going to be like kind of a rom-com, romantic-y kind of book, but instead it kind of takes itself way too seriously. So this is basically about a princess, or she was a duchess, I don't remember. Some high noble chick has to go across seas and marry this prince to save the kingdom and keep war from happening. It's a very cliched plot line. I think that's also why I really didn't like this, and the ending was just like the most generic ending. So yeah, she has to go and like marry this guy, and of course miscommunication happens. There's like conspiracy stuff happening in the background, so he thinks he's being forced into marrying this girl, and that it's the other side that wants him to marry, and so he's not happy to be there, she's not happy to be there. They have to, of course, consummate their marriage. And so, like, right when they're about to do it, an assassin comes, and she has like this spell potion that her sister gave her, which is supposed to be like a defense mechanism. And of course, it turns him into a horse, and it was supposed to be that it turns her into a horse so she could run away and escape. Logic, I know, it's weird. And yeah, so the story is just them hiding from the assassin, fleeing the kingdom, and trying to find a way to turn him back into a person again. And this could have been funny. This could have been funny, but it just wasn't. It tried too hard to take itself seriously. This could have been a funny, like, fun rom-com kind of read. But it felt like it tried too hard to be adult. But I got very confused on who the demographic for this was supposed to be, because it's written very generic YA style, but there's definitely adult content in it, so it did not mix well together. It felt weird, it felt off-putting, and it just kind of like left me confused on who is this geared towards. I felt like it kind of constricted itself as well, because it tried too hard to follow like that standard generic fairy tale kind of styled writing when it didn't need to. I think the thing I didn't like the most about this book was that the characters were very insufferable. The guy was decent, the male or the lead female was pretty insufferable. Like, nothing satisfied her ever. And this relationship on the whole was just so forced, and it just felt weird. Like, at every turn she tries to like make the guy out to be a bad guy, even though he's trying his damn near hardest to like placate her and like make her feel comfortable, make her not feel bad about things. She has like this random mysterious illness, like chronic illness, I guess. They don't really talk about what it is. They just say she gets dizzy, so like could literally be anything. But he even goes on this speech about how that's okay, that you can take rest for yourself, and she does the whole powerhouse, oh, you just gotta like muscle through it kind of thing, which is like terrible messaging that a lot of disabled and chronically ill people have been fighting against for years now, because they're like, dude, just let us rest. So it's like, please don't be that way, but also like, why are you being like this? And she's always like, oh, he doesn't love me, even though like 2 paragraphs earlier he was cuddling with her. And it's just so like, she's always finding something to complain about and like something to like fault him for. It's just really weird. And then like halfway through the book, they're finally like into the romance aspect and getting to the sexy parts, and they're like, oh, I always wanted you. And it's like, shut up, you did not. Like, the whole half of this book was them hating each other, and then when they meet each other and they're supposed to dance together at like this, you know, ball kind of thing, and they hated each other the whole time, and like they did nothing but sass each other. And it's like, what do you mean you wanted her this whole time? Like, they both very specifically said how they didn't want to be in that situation, how they didn't want to be with each other, and then suddenly, because the plot line calls for it, they're like, I always wanted you. No, you didn't. Stop it. And the ending was just so generic. Like, I was expecting at least like a little bit of like a layered conspiracy to this, but no, it was very much like a kid's fairy tale level of storytelling with like government corruption and overthrowing. It was just like, yeah, it's the person who you suspected did it. It's obvious. And they just went with that, and you're like, oh, okay. That's another reason why I was confused on who this was geared towards, because like the concepts and the story are just so simplistic that I was like, there's no way this is like meant for adults. But then they put in like these sex scenes, and I'm like, so yeah, this one's not worth the hype. It's nice, it's pretty. If you liked the actual book, then you should pick it up. But like, maybe if you're on the fence about it, find it on Libby or something. I think you can skip this one. It's not very good. There's better out there. Quiet, get away from the tree. This one, Leave Me Behind, I actually really enjoyed. I was very mixed about it at the start. About that, my cat is trying to eat the Christmas tree for the millionth time. This one I was kind of pleasantly, oh my gosh, I'm brain dead today. This one I was pleasantly surprised by. There we go. This is Leave Me Behind. I was very mixed about this when I first started reading it. I wasn't sure how I was liking the characters or like how it was set up. But then towards the middle, it got like really emotional and the story really picked up, and I started getting a lot more into it. This one actually has a really good and interesting story. So, this one's basically about this kind of underground Black Ops Special Forces kind of military mercenaries kind of thing, and she is from another special unit, he's from another opposing unit, and they kind of like, how do I describe this? They unintentionally met each other before they were going on their next mission, and they hooked up. And then he finds out that she was the new replacement on their team, and this causes chaos because how'd you say that? The squad she was originally from, they basically have bad blood with each other, and it's a whole it's a whole thing in the book. It's very complex to talk about. You'd have to just read the book, but basically there's layers to it and all this stuff that happens, and it ties in with the story really well because you actually start to see why there's this resentment on what actually happened between the two squads, and it's really interesting. The story is actually really good, and this is surprisingly predominantly story oriented, plot oriented. Of course, it does focus on the characters and a bit of the romance, but overall it is story driven. And so this actually had a very good balance between spice and story. The only reason why I was kind of mixed about it at the beginning is because there's a lot of hazing towards the maid lead, as they do a lot of kind of messed up things to try to get her to drop out from the squad, because they're kind of afraid. Like, I didn't like his reasoning for it, or like, the reasoning makes sense, but like the way they try to justify it, I just kind of didn't like. But the character development was actually really good, and that's kind of what redeemed it for me, is because they changed from a character, or they grow as a character, and they realize what they were doing to each other was messed up, and they were actively trying to change themselves, and they overall just kind of decided that they were tired of this lifestyle and they want to try and break free from it. Of course, the end is like really heartbreaking. It is very bittersweet. There is a character that I knew kind of was going to come back because they mentioned him way too much for it not to be relevant later in the story. But it's really good. Like, this ending was really good. I felt like it kind of dragged on a little. You kind of knew there was going to be like that happy ending, but I could have would have been okay if it ended like before that and just kind of had like this kind of bittersweet ending. But it is quite heavy and emotional. This is actually, I feel like, a fairly well done dark romance. It's actually very rounded out. It's got a good story. The characters actually develop and change and try to be better for each other, and then they get a nice, good, happy ending at the end, and I actually really enjoyed it. And on that note, I found the second one, Your Knife, My Heart, at Walmart. This one is a duology. That one's actually a standalone, but these take place in like the same universe with the same organization. This one, though, is a duology. There's a second one coming out for this one. This one I didn't like as much, and this is Your Knife, My Heart. This one had a much more YA writing style to it, and I just didn't really like it. It wasn't like as heavy, or the story just kind of felt a little bit more aimless. It didn't like really grab me the way the first one did. And of course it has trials in it. Like every YA novel ever, they're like, they have to go through these trials, and I'm like, why? I'm so tired of books where they have to go through trials. But I don't know, it was okay. I really liked the characters, but I just wasn't caring for the story. I found it kind of boring because there's a lot of parts where it just kind of started to drag, and it just kind of felt like you really needed to suspend like your disbelief. You had to just, I don't know, like there's some things that just felt so absurd. Like they're like, oh, we function differently than some of the other squads, which is like understandable. They're like, it's a dirty free-for-all, they just let us murder each other, and it's like, what? And then they're like, yeah, and then we do these trials where we all murder each other, and it's like, what's the point of that if they just let you kill each other off in the bunkers? Like, I don't know. And it had some interesting concepts, like the whole story for this one is basically how she's partnered with this guy who can't stop murdering his partners. He has like these experimental pills that they're testing out on them before they give them to like the regular military. And so they kind of make him crazy. They're kind of killing him inside, but he kind of thinks he's special because he's the only one that these pills haven't killed. But that's not necessarily true because they're kind of just slowly killing him instead. But he has like this whole complex about it. And so she gets thrown in with him, and they're like, you have to try to last with this partner, and if you kill her, we're gonna axe you because, you know, I don't know, I think it said he went through like 3 of them, and I'm like, how do you go through, like, again, it's not kind of nonsensical because it's like, after the second one, I'd been like, okay, you're gone. Because, like, that's not beneficial. But, yeah, he has, like, the test to not kill his partner. And, of course, they fall for each other. And I'm like, it didn't really feel as organic or as monumental with the other one. It just, I don't know. Like I said, the story was kind of slow, too. The spice in this one is just so randomly placed. oh, you're in the middle of a trial, you're on a battlefield, you're gonna get murdered by some of the other contestants. Let's just have sex by this tree. Like, I'm sorry, what? People are out there looking to try and murder you, and you're just gonna have sex in the middle of the woods, like completely vulnerable. I don't know. Like I said, there's so much like stuff in this book that's kind of ridiculous. I don't think I'm gonna pick up the second one, which is kind of a bummer because I really wanted to like this one since I like the other one, but I just feel like the story for this one was not captivating at all. And while I like the characters, it's just not enough to continue with this series. Whew. 20 minutes, guys. We're almost there, but not really. What you doing, Quiet? The next one I read is Falling Like Leaves. I found this one at Walmart and thought it would be like a cute, quick read, and it was. I don't have like a whole lot to say about it. It definitely gives that cozy vibe. I think this is a YA. I thought it was going to be about like college students when I picked it up, but I guess all the characters are in high school still. Quiet, come here. She's like this. She always wants to show off for the camera. But yeah, it's just a cute, cozy read. Not a whole lot happens. It's kind of slow. If you don't like slow books, you're probably not going to like this one. But if you like cozy romances with little to no spice, then you'll definitely enjoy this one. This is basically about a girl who goes back to her hometown, or not her hometown, it was her aunt's town. She had to leave her hometown to go and live with her aunt because her parents get divorced, and her mom just kind of last minute tells her she has to go and move with her, and so she's unhappy about this, and she kind of basically has to leave all of her friends and everything behind and restart in this new town. But she's been there and visited before when she was younger, and she re-meets with this guy that she used to hang out with as a kid, and she kind of just, it's kind of just about her reconnecting with this guy and finding this balance between what she wants in life, because she has like this kind of obsession with being like a business person and like trying to be like her dad and always working. And so it's like trying to find this balance of what she actually wants for herself, and then reconnecting with this guy and falling in love with this new town that she has moved to. So it's a very like kind of cute coming of age story. Actually, I would probably highly recommend picking this up. If you're a young adult, I think you'd really like this one, especially if you need like a nice cozy read, something kind of reassuring in this chaotic world right now. If you're older, you're probably not going to like this one as much. You might find it boring, but yeah, that was Falling Like Leaves. I finally got around to reading caught up. Apparently there's a lot of controversy on this one between the people who liked the first one but didn't like the second one, and a lot of people that said both were amazingly fantastic. I fall amongst the latter. I did not like this one, but I loved the first one. This one really just leaned into the smut. Like the first one had smut, it was spicy, but I also had an interesting and like funny story, likable characters. This one was boring and really just smut for the sake of smut. And like conveniently the main female character is like an OnlyFans star, or what did the book call it? A for you. She had like a for you page or something like that. And of course, she's like one of the owners for like this. I don't remember how they described it in the book. It's kind of like not like a BDSM dungeon, but like something similar to that. And like 90% of this book is very conveniently spent there. And it was also not from the point of view of the character that I liked that much. So, this book was basically about one of the characters from the first book, which was the mafia guy, Junior, that they end up meeting like over halfway through the book, which is one of the reasons why I was confused on why they picked that character for the second book, because it's like we barely knew him and we didn't meet him until like late in the book. But I was expecting this to have a lot more like mafia conflict in it, and it doesn't. But it's just him pining for this girl he met in high school, and how he still likes her, and he like stalks her OnlyFans and stuff. Then he sees her in like church, and then decides to like follow her to her workplace, and then finds out she works at like this sex club. And that's kind of just the story. And then of course they hook up because that's what the story demands. But like, it had the most interesting subplot where he was going to confront his dad about leaving the mafia, about how he didn't want that. He wanted to be with this girl, and he wanted to be able to like keep her safe and not like give her in harm's way or anything like that. And then it just kind of never goes anywhere. They have like a dinner, and then his dad gets mad, and then that's it. And any like conflict happens off page, so you never hear about it. And then in the end they're like, oh yeah, he's getting therapy. And it's like, oh, that was like the most interesting part of the story, and then they didn't even elaborate on it. So I just didn't like it. It was just boring. I couldn't get into the character. This was actually my friend's favorite book, and apparently he picked this one up before reading the first one, so I think naturally he kind of liked this one better, but I liked Lights Out better. I just thought the characters were more likable, the story was actually interesting, and this one I just didn't think it was as interesting. I'll probably pick up and read the third one. It's from the roommate's point of view from the first book, which is what I thought was going to be from this one, but no, they picked Junior instead, and I thought that was kind of weird. But yeah, that's that one. Her Soul to Take. I actually really like this one. This one had a really cool and interesting story. This is about this girl whose family was tied to like this old ancient god in like this small rundown kind of town. There's like this cult, and they're tied to this old god that they're trying to bring back and summon, and they've been trying to make sacrifices to this god, and they have like magic and stuff, and they've had this demon who they've held captive by using his summoning circle and stuff, and forced him into servitude, and that is our male protagonist, and he ends up escaping and meeting up with the female lead, and basically her whole story is that she belonged to one of these survivors from like a ritual that happened. The god had like spared one of her ancestors or something like that from being sacrificed, but now the god says it's time to repay that favor, and now you need to come with me. So she hears him and like the calling from him, and these cultist town members are basically after her and trying to take her and use her for ritual. And the main head family, of course, is behind most of these rituals. And those family members just happen to be her friends, and she finds out about it and that how they're like using her and like trying to get her to come to like their parties and stuff so they can like sacrifice her. And it's overall just kind of like a really gritty story. Like, this is actually a really good dark romance. This is one where it's like the story's dark, but like the romance isn't. Because this actually has like a healthy amount of consent in it. Like, there's safe words, there's always checking on the partner and making sure they're okay. And it was, I don't know, I actually got behind them because like the guy is kind of a jackass, but like he's a demon, but he's not like necessarily a horrible kind of person, surprisingly. um I've only read like 4 or 5 dark romances, and this is the first one where like the guy's actually tolerable and, consensual, so that's something. This is also a chunkosaurus of a book. I think the one thing I didn't like about this is that there was too much spice in it. Like, so, like the spicy scenes were like entire chapters long. Like, they were long, and I feel like that's 90% of the book. I do feel like sometimes there is too much of a good thing, and they could have just scaled it back a little bit, especially since the story was actually so good. I'd get kind of mad because they would be like at a climax part where like they're doing something important for the story, and then they're like, we're just gonna take a detour and have sex on this bed because this is a smut. Like, it has to remind you that this is like a spicy book, and it's like, okay, but like timing, like place and timing, that's a thing. That's a thing. You can put in your spice, just put it in like a better spot, like not when you're in like the middle of investigating something and you're like invested in that part of the story. But yeah, I did enjoy this. This is a 3-piece series, but I don't think I'm gonna pick up the other books. I do have them, but like they're from the other characters' perspectives. And I started the second one, but I'm not really sure I care that much. I think I might actually find the audiobooks on Libby and try to listen to them. But yeah, I find that I always like the first book better because I always like and get attached to those characters. And then when they change like the characters and perspectives in the second one, I tend to never like it as much. So we'll see. Maybe I'll pick it up, but I think I might need to take a break from it. Okay, we need to take a breather for a minute. That's just the physical books I got through. Now it's time to go on to the Libby ones. Oh, and my legs have gone a little numb. Okay. Ah, that's right. So, you may have remembered in a past few of my wrap-ups, I said I've been dying for a good thriller series, but all the thrillers I read just never really hit. They were very miss in my opinion. They either felt too convoluted, they just didn't like make sense. It was like they were trying too hard to make a twist ending to get a gotcha instead of being like, making a good story. So I actually found on Libby the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and I loved this. I like binge read all 3 of the books. Um, it was so good, and it's a basic like YA mystery thriller series, but they were really well written. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get the blood flow back into my leg. I like fell asleep and it's kind of distracting me. Ooh. I am old. But yeah, this one was actually really good. It's basically about this girl who's making a podcast for like a school report kind of thing, like a project. And she starts investigating this murder or disappearance of like one of these girls. And she just like goes around and interviews people and starts being able to solve this case. And it's really good. It's a 3-piece series. They all connect to each other. They're all fluid. It has this really nice like round circle of how everything kind of connects and it makes sense. I really liked this series because it had a very clear idea of where it wanted to go with the story and like the overarching plot of it. And I liked how they introduced like the side characters, but they didn't go too much into detail on them. Quiet, come on. They didn't go too much into detail on them, so some of them actually get mentioned in the other books and they become like the main characters and you find more of their background and stuff. And it's a really good series. I feel like I can't really talk about it without spoiling a lot of it. I didn't like the third book as much though. I felt like some of it felt like a little out of left field. And they kind of had this whole like it comes full circle mantra, but I don't feel like it kind of made sense though. I don't feel like it made sense for her character because I feel like her character should have known better at this point, or like I don't know. I can't say without spoiling it. I guess I could because it's like 90% of the book's plot, but yeah, that was a really good series. I really enjoyed it. I tried, guys. I tried to get into Quicksilver. I didn't like it. I only got a couple chapters in. I think I got to like chapter 4 before I didn't finish it. I just kind of put it down. I just didn't like the main character. Give me 1 minute. My cat is eating my charger again. Sorry about that. My cat was trying to eat my charger again. But yeah, I tried really hard to get in Quicksilver. I just couldn't. I just didn't like the main character. She was supposed to be like a 24 to 25-year-old, and she was acting like a 16-year-old, and it was just kind of off-putting. And the writing style just felt very like generic YA, and the story just kind of like is kind of an interesting concept, but I just couldn't really get into it that much. So the next one I read was North of the Wind, and this one I really enjoyed at the beginning, and I'm actually kind of upset with it because it was really good. I thought this was going to be a 5-star read for me, but unfortunately it really started to drag for me halfway through. This was about these two girls in this changing society. They are inspired by Finnish folklore, and they're in a changing time where the Swedes are trying to invade, and they're bringing Christianity with them, and they're fighting to keep their traditions and their religious views, and they're fighting about like whether the old gods are dead or not. And then one of them gets kidnapped by one of their death gods, and the other is determined to find her and bring her back, and also be able to prove while bringing her back that their gods are still alive and not dead. And this was such a good concept, and I really loved it. But this, of course, had to turn into a romance, and I just don't feel like that worked, because for a good whole chunk of the story, There was no romance aspect to it at all. If anything, I thought this was going to be like maybe an unrequited lovers kind of story between the two main characters, but it doesn't like really go that way. I think the pacing was just weird. And I guess there is a second book for this, which is crazy to me because I think this one book should have been split into two books. But this does have two separate perspectives from each character. And I think the problem is that the story kind of climaxed in the middle with one character's point of view, but it didn't with the other. And instead of focusing on the other's point of view for a couple chapters, they needed to like keep going with the other one. So then they just kind of drug out this romance, which just didn't like feel like it worked very well. Is weird. I don't know. It really dragged because it just felt like it wasn't really adding anything to the story. And these characters they weren't fleshed out very well. Like, they were really good at the beginning, and it had strong storytelling and character development. And then when it got to this romance aspect, it just couldn't decide what it wanted out of these characters. Like, they flip flop between wanting each other and not wanting each other. I guess I should say it's kind of one sided because she marries the death god and he definitely wants her, but she keeps flip flopping between liking him and not liking him. And it's just kind of a mess. And then she just randomly decides she likes him and likes banging him, and it's kind of weird. I also got kind of frustrated with it because the messaging in it was kind of weird. Like, it had this really good part of the story and part of the climax where she has to make a self-sacrifice, where she has to marry this god to unbound him because that was his curse, is because they didn't think they could find anyone who'd want to marry him, especially because he couldn't communicate with anyone. He was trapped in the form of a raven. And of course he finds her when she first comes to his land as the raven. And so he falls in love with her because, she's the only one that recognizes him. Well, she doesn't like recognize him as a person, but like she cares about him, like how someone cares about a cat. They're like, oh, kitty, kitty, and they try to feed them and stuff. So she's the only one who's been caring towards him, not being like, ah, shoo, you filthy bird, And so he falls in love with her and he gets to know her because she's lonely. She's like trapped in this place. And so she's talking to him to kind of alleviate that loneliness. And she like goes into detail about like personal things. And so he falls in love with her because he gets to know all about her and the way she like treats him and stuff. But on her end, she's only just met him as a person and she doesn't know him. And so she has to make like this sacrifice of, do I want to marry and bind myself to this god? Because if they free this god, they're returning the world to the way it was supposed to be, because there was an evil queen, but she wasn't necessarily actually the queen because they were never married. She's kind of taken over the land and trying to make it a crueler place. So she needs to decide whether she wants to free the king so he can save the land again, basically. And so it was her choice and her decision, and she chose to be selfless and bind herself to this king, this god, to better the land that she's now trapped in. And then they kind of try to take it back, and I really hated that because it took away her choice and her agency over that choice and decision. The writer tried to make it like it was somehow the man's fault or the god's fault, even though he was trapped in a tree and couldn't talk, and it was already stated to her that everything that was happening was because of this other queen, like this evil queen. So it's like, it's really weird, and it's like, don't take that from her. She had this empowering moment to make this selfless choice, and then they just kind of like made her bratty and selfish, because she's like, oh, well, I did this and I didn't get a choice. And it's like, yeah, but you did though. And it just, I didn't like it. And it was also, she goes around calling everyone selfish while being selfish herself, because she's never once stopped to think about how all these people were trapped in bondage for centuries. Like the god was literally stuck in a tree, unable to move or talk or communicate with anyone for centuries. So she got like kind of frustrating, and adding the flip flop with the romance, it just kind of added to the not liking this character anymore. I don't know, it just got like kind of frustrating to read because it started feeling out of character. And the story plot got kind of convoluted, because then they start talking about how, like, oh, she doesn't want to have kids and stuff, and then, oh, guess what, there's a prophecy and she's gonna have a kid, and it's like, oh no. And the ending and the way the coupling thing happened, it's just so, I don't know, it's like it became a different story. Like it hit this conclusion, and then they're like, I don't know where to go with this, so we're gonna just add in this other random stuff. And it's like, it just, I don't know, it's so frustrating, because it could have been something really good, and then they just kind of dropped the ball. um so I'm kind of surprised there's going to be a second book, because but yeah, oh my goodness, this was a long video, I'm sorry guys. um but yeah, as always, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.